stop before you send one more resume. You need to hear this. What if the job you're desperately trying to get back isn't actually the best thing for you? What if the loss of the job, as painful as it was the slap in the face that you actually needed to get on a different track? We've been through a lot together on this channel. If you've been there from the beginning, then you know that we started the journey in a very real and difficult place. The moment that the job that you counted on suddenly wasn't there anymore. Maybe that was a layoff. Maybe it was a forced retirement, or maybe it was we're going in a different direction conversation that left you sitting in your car staring at the steering wheel and wondering what the hell just happened. We've talked about the grief, because it is grief. It's a loss of identity. It's a loss of structure. It's a loss of sense of purpose and a sense of having to be somewhere, to do something, a loss of contributing. We talked about age bias in hiring, those algorithmic resume screeners, the hiring managers that look at your graduation date and don't bother reading past that on your resume. We talked about how to fight back, how to rebuild, how to re-enter the job market that has changed so dramatically, where AI is literally flooding the zone with thousands of applications for each and every job posting, and where the old rules just don't apply any longer. Did it work? Well, it matters. And if you're still at that stage, you're still job hunting, and you're still in the thick of it, keep going. Those episodes on the resumes and the LinkedIn and stuff, they're not going anywhere. I'll continue to have your back. But today, we're going to do something really different, really different. Today, we're going to talk about what's possible, what you may not have thought about before. But before we get started, I really want you to hit the subscribe button so that you can be on board for the entire journey, because the journey is really just beginning. Here's the truth that I think gets buried under the stress of job searching. People over 50 are sitting on a mountain of value. Decades of hard-won experience, real skills, perspective that only comes with actually doing things, not just reading about it or watching a YouTube video about them. The ability to stay calm about everything because you've been in fires before. The wisdom to know what actually matters, to separate the wheat from the chaff. And here's what I've been thinking. What if the traditional job search, the resumes, the applications, the interviews, the waiting, and that rejection is only one of the paths that are available to you? What if the best path is not the one that you're on right now? Over the next series of episodes, we're going to explore 4 major categories of opportunity, 4 paths that people in your situation, experienced, talented, 50-year-old at a crossroads, are taking right now. Decisions which I have taken over the last 6 years. Some are finding new stability. Some are building something of their own for the first time. And some are discovering who they actually were meant to be. Maybe not 9-to-5ers. And some are realizing that the most meaningful that they can do is to pass on what they know. So there are 4 paths. Let's walk through each one of them. The first path is for people who say, I'm not ready to blow up everything. I feel like I just want to belong somewhere. I want structure. I want a paycheck, but I still want to feel useful. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing at all. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This path it's more about stability. It's that feeling of employment, and it's that feeling that there are, options out there more than you might have realized. Let's start, for example, with remote and flexible work. Remote work, it didn't disappear after the pandemic ended. It just transformed. There are entire ecosystems of remote jobs in customer service, in project coordination, administrative roles, sales, account management, and even tech support. These are real jobs. They're full-time, they're part-time, they can be contract, and they're across every industry. And here's the beautiful thing, that remote work is that one great equalizer where our experience, if we're performing well on Zoom, well, frankly, nobody's looking at your age. They're looking at what you can accomplish. Next, this is a bit controversial maybe, there's seasonal, temporary, or bridge work. Maybe you're not ready to commit to a full-time role. Maybe you're still healing a bit. Bridge work could possibly be the answer. There's things like seasonal retail, tax preparation, which is hugely in demand. It could be tourism and hospitality services, event staffing, short-term contract roles that let you keep your foot in the door as you're trying to figure out what's next on your terrain map. I want to say something pretty directly about this. Taking a bridge job, it's not a step backward, and it could actually be a strategic move that keeps your income flowing, it keeps you connected, and frankly, often it could lead you somewhere that you didn't expect. It could put you on a fresh new path. Another maybe unexpected one is government or nonprofit or mission-driven roles. This one is probably underrated, and I mean really wildly underrated. Local government agencies are constantly hiring. Nonprofits, they need experienced leaders, they need grant writers, community outreach coordinators, and program managers. And they tend to value experience rather than to penalize it. Another is workforce development roles, which help other people do exactly what you're doing right now, which is to grow rapidly into something new. And here's the emotional piece that I want you to hold on to. These roles, they often come with a sense of meaning that the corporate world just couldn't deliver. When the work matters, it changes your attitude and you show up different. Then there's something called returnships and career reentry programs. Did you know that quite a few major corporations and an increasing number of medium-sized companies, they have these formal programs that are specifically designed to bring experienced professionals back into the workforce? I didn't know that. They're called returnships, and think of them like internships for people who already have decades of experience. Maybe it's a little bit similar to the Robert De Niro film, The Intern, but without serving the coffee. Companies like IBM and Amazon, Goldman Sachs, Unilever. This is really a trend, and I'm going to probably dedicate an entire episode to this in the near future because I think the opportunities here could be quite significant. And then maybe closer to home, there's community-based work. You shouldn't overlook what's happening, right outside in your own backyard. There are things like senior caregiving, child care, pet sitting, house sitting, home organization and downsizing services, which, by the way, is a booming industry because, well, baby boomers are really downsizing their homes right now. Sometimes the most stabilizing work is actually the most human work. How do I say that the emotional promise of this first path, the thing I want you to hear the most is that you still belong, you still have a place, and And you can regain stability without having to go back to that toxic place in the corporate environment that was probably grinding you down anyway. Now, I want to pause here for a moment because I can already guess what some of you are thinking, which is, hey, that all sounds fine, but I don't want fine, John. I'm tired of working for someone else's dream, and I'm tired of being managed by people half my age who never actually built anything. I want something that's mine. Good, because that is exactly where we're going to go next. Path number 2 is for the person who's done asking for permission. This is the land of entrepreneurship and, frankly, taking some calculated risks. And I want to be very clear about something. I'm not talking about dropping everything, quitting, and trying to start the next Amazon, but I'm talking about a big spectrum of ways to build something that belongs to you, from very modest starts all the way up to running your own firm. Okay, let's begin with consulting and fractional leadership. This is one of the most, I would say, powerful and underutilized opportunities for experienced professionals. I've covered that in another video, and I'll link to that here. Fractional leadership means that you bring your C-suite or other management experience to companies that need it, but they can't afford to hire a full-time executive. So it could be fractional CFO, CMO, CIO, any of those alphabet soup. You work with multiple clients, you have your own schedule, and you charge what your decades of experience are actually worth. And that's not limited to the C-suite, because there are also lots of positions similar to this that are available in the layers below. Independent consulting. It works in very much the same way. You find things that took you years to learn. Companies, they're going to pay you, and they could pay you quite well for access to knowledge without the overhead of having a full-time hire. There are also advisory board positions, which are just another layer of this. Companies of all sizes, they need experienced voices in the room, and one of those could be you. There's also freelancing and contracting. These are things like writing or editing or content creation, IT and engineering design, HR recruiting, training development, research and analysis, virtual assistants. I mean, it's a long list of opportunities that you could leverage your expertise. Now, the gig economy, it gets a bad reputation, and yes, some of those are genuinely exploitative. But for experienced professionals who know how to deliver, then freelancing can be enormously flexible and also financially rewarding. The key is just positioning yourself correctly, and we're going to get into that 100% in one of the upcoming episodes. Another alternative is small business ownership. A consulting firm, a tutoring or coaching practice, home-based services, online reselling, digital products, templates, guides, mini courses, things that you can create and then you just sell them repeatedly. The barrier to starting a small business, frankly, has never been lower. That's both a challenge and an opportunity, and we'll dig into what actually works for people in our demographic in future episodes. Then there are franchises. Franchising is, I would say, an underexplored path for experienced professionals, but it comes with, let's say, built-in systems, brand recognition, and even support structures that you don't have to build yourself. For example, senior services franchises are growing fast given the demographics of the population. Other things like home repair, handyman services, cleaning and maintenance, fitness and wellness. The investment, it can vary widely, and it's absolutely something that you need to put a significant amount of due diligence into, but it could be a path worth understanding and looking into. One can also explore micro-entrepreneurship and I guess I can call it digital income. This is the world of smaller scale digital income, things like affiliate marketing, print on demand, digital downloads, newsletters, YouTube channels, podcast sponsorships, online communities. And I want to spend some real time on this in one of my future episodes because there's a lot of noise in this space and even a lot of misinformation that's targeted at people in transition. I want to cut through that and explore what can actually be realistic. What's the emotional promise of this path? Well, the clear one is that you can build something that's yours. You take back control. You generate income without having to ask anyone else for permission on what to do or how to do it. Before I get into the next two themes, and these ones I think are the ones that personally mean the most to me, I want to ask you something. If you're watching this and you think that, hey, this feels like you're speaking directly to me, well, I want to hear from you. Do me a favor, drop a comment below. Tell me which of these four themes that we talk about today, these four paths, feel the most interesting, the most relevant for you. And that'll help me to prioritize which ones I'm going to cover because there are going to be a lot of episodes on each of the individual different opportunities that I discussed today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Because every one of these upcoming episodes, it's going to go deep on these specific opportunities, and I really don't want you to miss a single one. All right, let's get into path 3 because this one is personal. It's the one that I happen to choose at the age of 56. There are a lot of people who, reach this moment, the job loss, the disruption, the forced stop, and something quietly surfaces that's been buried for a long time. Yeah, I'm talking about a dream. Maybe you haven't thought about your dream for a while. Maybe a different version of yourself. You ask a question that starts with, what if I actually did? This third path, I call it the rewarding personal growth, and it might be the one that actually changes everything for you. So let's talk about encore careers. An encore career, it's a second act that's driven by purpose rather than just a paycheck. It's the corporate attorney who becomes a nonprofit leader fighting for housing equity. It could be a marketing executive that now is advocating environmental causes. It could be a finance director who moves into healthcare to support various social services. All of these have meaning. These are not retirement activities. These are real careers, and they're paid. And those can also happen to line up personally with something that you care passionately about. The AARP, they've documented this trend pretty extensively, and we'll link to the research in the description below. It's really quite interesting to read. So how about creative and personal reinvention? Writing a book or a memoir, starting a podcast, launching a YouTube channel. I've got 2 of those. Creating a community or a membership group around something that you really care about. There's also advocacy work for ageism, for caregivers, for veterans, for healthcare, and those causes are exploding right now. There are people building movements around the exact experiences that feel like wounds, but in doing so, they're healing themselves while actually also helping others. You can try to monetize a hobby. Things like photography or woodworking, art and design, music lessons, writing or blogging, gardening, landscaping, travel planning. What else can you do? I have friends that went into each one of these different categories, and they've had a really fulfilling second encore career ever since. These are not just side hustles. For many people, these actually become the center. And yes, you can earn real money doing them. So we're going to look at some of the real paths for doing this, not some of the hype that comes around, some of them, on how you can turn something that you love into something sustainable. And if you can handle complexity, there are what I would call portfolio careers. This is for the people who say, I don't want one thing, I want a whole life. So a portfolio career, it's a deliberate mix. It's part-time work, consulting, and other passion projects. You could look at this as income diversification. It's a lifestyle first design where you're no longer organizing, your life around a job, but you're actually organizing your work around your life. This is something that I chose to do, and I've been working a portfolio career for the last 5 or 6 years. Then it's no surprise that this is increasingly the choice for the most fulfilled people that I've encountered in conversations. The emotional promise of this path, and I want you to really hear this one, is that you can grow a new identity. You can turn the pain of this moment into a new purpose. You can become the person that you were always meant to be. And it might have taken exactly this disruption to get you to turn on to this new path. There's one more path, and in some ways, I think it might actually be the most powerful one, because it's not about finding, your next thing. It's about realizing that you are the thing. What am I talking about? Well, the fourth path, it's teaching, it's instructing, and it's passing on what you already know. And I want to start this section actually with a question. How many times in your career did someone younger than you come up to you and ask, formally or informally, hey, can I pick your brain for just a few minutes? I know I've had that happen to me a lot throughout my career. How many times were you the person who actually knew how something worked, when you were the one who'd seen it before, and who could look at a situation and say, hey, I know exactly what's going to happen if you go down that road, because, well, frankly, you've already been down that road, right? That knowledge, that wisdom, they hold enormous value. The question is just whether you're going to let it sit unused or whether you're going to put it to work. One avenue is teaching and training. Things like adjunct teaching at a community college or corporate training and facilitation. It could be something like online course creation on platforms like Udemy or Teachable or Skillshare. It could be instruction in community programs. These are all accessible entry points, and many of them don't even require a teaching credential. What they do require, though, is that you have deep knowledge of a subject and you know how to explain it in a clear way that people understand. You've been doing that for your entire life. Then the other one is perhaps coaching and mentoring. Executive coaching, career coaching, life and leadership coaching. This is, I would say, probably one of the fastest growing professional services sectors in the country, in the United States. Experienced professionals with the right frameworks and training, well, they're uniquely positioned here. And on the mentoring side, there are formal programs for younger professionals. This is increasingly being used by companies who are trying to bridge the experience gap that their own hiring practices have created. It's kind of funny how that happens, isn't it? Having to fix their own self-created problems. And lastly, there is what I would call content-based teaching. So here we're talking about educational YouTube channels, instructional podcasts, workshops and seminars, maybe even writing guides, templates, and how-to books. We can talk about all of these specifically, and we will, because many of you who are watching this channel are thinking maybe about launching your own program. And there are things that I've learned, things that I wish someone had told me before that I really want to share with you in the coming episodes. The emotional promise of this fourth path, and I want to really leave this one ringing in your ears, is that you have wisdom worth sharing. Not someday, but why not right now? You can help to shape the next generation and where they go. You can be valued, I mean really genuinely valued for what you've actually lived and what you've learned, as long as you know how to pass that on. There it is, the map of our terrain. 4 separate, distinct paths. They're not 4 options where you rank and you choose like a multiple choice test, but these are 4 completely different directions. Each one is valid, each one is powerful, and each one is capable of leading you somewhere better than where you had just started. Let me just go back. There's path 1, stability, for when you want to breathe, you want to belong, and you want to rebuild your footing. Then there's path 2. It's entrepreneurship, for when you're ready to build something that's all yours. Then let's go to path 3, which I call personal growth. And this is where the disruption is actually an invitation for you to become what you were actually meant to be. And lastly, path 4, teaching and legacy, for when you realize that the most powerful thing that you can do is to share the knowledge that you know. Over the next series of episodes, we're going to dive deep into each one of these paths, really pick them apart one by one, subject by subject. We're going to look at specific opportunities. We're going to look at real stories, and we're going to look at practical steps that you can use. The things that actually work and the things, well, that don't. Look, you've survived something hard, and that took real strength. But surviving, it's just the beginning. So what comes next? That's the part that's going to get really interesting. Youth runs fast, but age knows the terrain. Don't forget it. Look, if this episode spoke to you, if these 4 paths they made something light up inside of you, drop something in the comments. I'd like to know which one, every single one, and I'll respond to your comments. And also subscribe if you haven't yet. Turn on the bell so that you don't miss the deep dives that are coming. And if there's someone that you know that's at a similar crossroads that needs to hear this, then please share this with them and let them know. That's how we're going to continue to build this community. So I'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourself. And I'll say it again. Youth runs fast, but age knows the terrain.